The Essenes, is there a similar sect today? Is there any apocalyptic cult similar to the Essenes today? The Essenes formed an apocalyptic sect or cult before the 1st century until the year 68 of the Common Era. Their main community was located at Qumran, and they produced what is known today as the Dead Sea Scrolls. The community of Essenes at Qumran began during the beginning of the Maccabean period, perhaps around 150 BC. Under Greek rule, the dynasty of the Hasmonean kings was established. They were the direct successors of the Maccabees, who managed to establish a powerful kingdom in what is now Israel and Palestine. They abused their authority and appointed as high priest an individual not descended from the former high priest Zadok. That action, along with other governmental and religious abuses, motivated the Essenes to establish their independent community. Separated into their community, they could rigorously observe Jewish law and maintain their own rituals. The so-called Scroll of War of the Essenes is unique among ancient Jewish literature for its graphic and detailed description of the future battle that would end the entire evil system. This scroll is related to other apocalyptic texts written by other Jews of the time, such as, for example, the Book of Daniel. The Essenes lived an apocalyptic fantasy about God's intervention to end the oppressive Greek regime under Antiochus and the subsequent Roman regime. It was a fantasy because none of that happened. The end and war of God never happened. Rather, and finally, the Essenes of Qumran and the entire Jewish system, the city of Jerusalem and its temple, were destroyed by the Roman armies. The Essenes are important for understanding the historical Jesus, in part because Jesus appears to have shared many apocalyptic views, although there is no evidence that he belonged to the sect. Even so, Jesus, like them, believed that the end of times was near and that people had to prepare for the coming end. Now analyze the similarities between the ancient Essenes and any religious sect of our day that is known to you. After analyzing the similarities, what is the sect, or sects, in your opinion, that is parallel to the Essenes?
The video will now present some beliefs of the Essenes on the left column and, on the right column, the parallel beliefs of the modern-day sect. See the similarities.
They believed that the predictions of the ancient prophets had been fulfilled in the experiences of the Essene believers and in the history of their community. The modern sect claims that biblical prophecies are fulfilled only in their organization. They believed that the end of times was imminent. Upon arrival, there would be a final battle between the forces of good and the forces of evil, between the children of light and the children of darkness. The battle would culminate in the triumph of God and the entry of his children into a blessed kingdom. The modern sect awaits the apocalypse in our days. There will be a final battle, Armageddon. God will defeat all his enemies and the current children of light will finally be able to enter the long-awaited promised kingdom. They believed that they had to distinguish themselves and separate themselves from the impurities of the outside world. Cult members are encouraged to keep themselves separate from the world around them. In contrast to the physical temple in Jerusalem, the sect claimed that they, the members of the sect, formed the true temple of God. Only they possessed the truth of God. They were the true Israel. The modern sect affirms that the main members and leaders are today the spiritual temple of God. They claim to be the true Israel of God.
They required a 2-year initiation for a new member to be accepted into the community. To enter the sect, the prospective member has to go through different progressive stages and complete a study of the sect's doctrines, which can often take months or even longer. When a new member was approved, he had to be purified by immersion in water, baptism. The new member must be baptized. The new member had to give part or all of his assets to the community. Along with all the members of the sect, the new member is continually subjected to requests for money. They believed that God had revealed to the members of the community the course of historical events, and also the interpretation of ancient prophecies. The sect claims that it is only through its leaders that an understanding of what will soon occur and the application of all the prophecies is reached. They believed they lived in the final days, before the entire Jewish system and the rest of humanity ended. The sect claims that we are living in the last days of this world. The end is around the corner. The war scroll of the Essenes details the final war between the forces of good and the forces of evil that would take place at the end of time. It offers an apocalyptic vision of the final struggle between good and evil. Outline the course of the battles, gives standards for soldiers, and describes the outcome assured by God for the sons of light, the members of the community, over the sons of darkness, the Romans, the apostate Jews, and the rest of the world. The sect frequently publishes, with quite graphic images, details about the final battle, called Armageddon. The publications also talk about the final triumph of the modern children of light. It even mentally manipulates its members to be willing to obey any instructions their leaders produce, even if the instruction makes no sense from a human point of view. After this analysis, have you reached your conclusion? Have you been able to identify any modern-day sect? The Essenes of Qumran lived a utopia. Furthermore, they lived wrapped in a superiority complex. They believed they were the only ones who had God's approval, the only children of light, and the only ones superior to the rest of the Jews and humanity. They believed they were the only ones who had the correct interpretation of the sayings of the prophets, and, therefore, the sayings of God. They believed themselves to be the only ones who would survive God's final war against the forces of darkness. It was finally proven that, despite their claims, they were unequivocally in error. What they were experiencing was a fantasy, a utopia. The Essenes of Qumran were massacred and annihilated by the fierce attack of the Roman army in the year 68 of the Common Era. The Romans were considered part of the children of darkness and led by the forces of iniquity. However, they triumphed over the Essenes and the rest of the Jewish system. The God of the Essenes did not protect them. Would the sect or sects that make up the modern parallel of the Essenes have the same final destiny? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Only time will tell.